one of the things that really hit home for me is that if you knew what God had in store for you, you'd have more faith in the plan than in him.
I love that. Wow.
And that really has always been important for me. And, everything that we've succeeded in, it's never been without challenge. And, having someone to turn to and to pray to and to just believe in and have faith in has really, really kept us going.
Hello, Called Forth ladies. I am so excited for today's episode. We have a guest. Gianna Rahmani is joining us today to talk about her new book, Day Hustle. But before we get started, I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro on who Gianna is. Gianna Marie Rahmani, often referred to as G, as the other half of F&G, Farad and Gianna, and is the author of Day Hustle. Receive the benefits of a day job while you grow your side hustle. Retired at 39 from a 20-year career, G is now focusing on her and her husband's businesses and investments. Together, F&G hustle to the honeymoon life, what they've characterized as a life focused on love and adventure, and one that you don't need a vacation from. So thank you, Gianna, for coming today.
It's my pleasure, Dawn. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I'm excited for the Called Forth audience to get to know who you are and what you're about. So one of the first questions I want to ask is basically, what is angel employment?
Well, angel employment might sound too good to be true, Dawn, but basically we are paying people the benefits of a day job, so the salary, health insurance, 401k, to grow their own business, to grow their side hustle. Basically, we are giving them the 40 hours a week plus that they put in their day job back to them.
Okay. So this concept was so interesting to me. As I actually have a copy of your book, I was reading it over the
Yay!
weekend to learn more about the concept of day hustle. But before we get any further into that, I was really curious about what led you to write the book Day Hustle, because I know you were working a 9 to 5, several 9 to 5s before you came up with this concept. So just really curious on what led you to start this new journey.
Yeah, well, I actually wanted to write a book about my husband and my secret to success, if you want to call it that. But my day job was always getting in the way. And I was all into my day job. So I just put the book aside. There's a lot of people that do day jobs and side hustles, and they're very successful at growing their business. But I also had a family that I didn't want to sacrifice time with them. I didn't want to sacrifice time for self-improvement, for exercise. So that side hustle, that passion of mine always got pushed to the wayside. Well, I was reading books like Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but not just that, his second book, Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. And these really hit home as to making the point that being an employee is not the way to go, especially if we wanted to build a life that we didn't want a vacation, don't need a vacation from.
Mm.
In a day job, you are paying yourself last and you're in this hamster wheel. So I knew that I wanted to get out of the day job, but it was comfortable there. It was secure there. It's not like I hated my job. I actually enjoyed it. I just didn't love it. Like
Mm.
I love writing. So I figured, I wish somebody would just pay me what I wanted to do. And in the spirit of giving away first what I want, I figured, well, how can we pay people to do what they want? And
Mm.
that's where the idea came from. And so with angel employment, I was able to break through my golden handcuffs. And I figured, why don't I write the book to help people break through their golden handcuffs as well? And that's why I wrote the book. I just feel like, when I announced my retirement, my number one response was, oh, one day I want to do this too.
Mhm.
One day I want to do that. And it just gave me this sense of responsibility to put this out there for people.
Mm. That's so interesting. So I feel like for so many people, I'm sure so many of the people listening, they know that they want to seek and start a business and do something more, but they struggle because they wonder, what is it that I go all in on? And actually, in your book, I want to say it's I wrote it down here. Well, page 98, I believe you talk about, or 97 or 98, you talk about clarity, how important clarity is to starting. So what would you say it was for you that allowed you to gain the clarity to know, okay, day hustle is the idea. I need to go all in on this.
That's a great question. I think without clarity, that's when I'm most anxious.
Mm,
And that's when I'm seeking answers the most. I'm praying, I'm meditating, I'm talking to my husband. And until you really ask yourself the questions of, if I'm doing what I'm doing now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 1 year from now, how am I going to feel? Do I feel fulfilled or do I feel stuck? Do I feel like I'm making a difference or am I coming up with some sort of ingenuine reason why I'm still doing what I'm doing 20 years later? And so that's the questions that I had until I really said, you know what? Writing gets me out of bed in the morning before an alarm clock even had to get me up for my day job.
mm,
And but it wasn't just the writing, Don, it was my purpose in figuring out what am I writing about? Am I really helping people? And I just felt like if I was struggling with the golden handcuffs, then other people are. And so, like I said, that's the sense of responsibility that kind of helped me really get that clarity. Like, I need to do
mm.
this for people.
So have you always been a writer from, obviously you're just not writing this book, but if you always had a love of writing, and if so, like how was that cultivated?
I didn't actually think about it too much, but ever since I was little, I was writing speeches for, like
Mm,
sixth grade graduation, or I was writing a poem for my brother's high school graduation, and I dedicated a poem to him. When I did my day job was in real estate and property management, and I ended up, um, just whether I was in the position or not to write blog articles and magazine articles, and then the keynote speeches for our team meetings and company meetings. So I really always enjoyed writing. But what really led me to thinking that I wanted to be an author, like to publish a book, a whole book, was, my husband and I have a really fantastic marriage. We've been married for 20 years now. And I was being surrounded by people that weren't in fulfilling marriages, and a lot of them were falling apart. And I just didn't like that. Like, when I hear marriage, I hear, commitment to God, to your husband, and to your family. And I was just seeing too many marriages break apart.
mm,
So I wanted to write the book as to like our approach to marriage. Um, and what happened was, I started writing the book again. As I mentioned, the day job kind of got in the way. But one of my biggest fears was, okay, how am I going to get this book to all the people that it needs to get out to? I'm not a celebrity. I don't know how I can reach people. And whether right or wrong, I felt like in this day and age with the great resignation and quiet quitting and inflation the way it is,
mhm.
I felt like a book about finances and just being more financially stable and healthy would get my name out there more. So to be honest, I wrote this book so it would help people in that facet of life. But
Mm.
my real goal is for them to know me so that they would read my second book that will, come out eventually.
I love that. I love that because so many times I feel like as an entrepreneur going into a space, we get into our head that, oh, I only have to talk about this one thing or I can't show pieces of myself. But really, it's when you're vulnerable and real and talk about your own passions and your own interests that it creates that connecting piece with your audience and allows people to have that buy-in and that investment to who you are. Because yes, they want to know about finances, but when they can paint a picture about why you're speaking about the things that you are, I do feel like it really helps with that connecting piece because people don't just buy a product, they buy a story, they buy into the individual. So I love that you felt the freedom to share more about, the personal side of your life, which kind of leads into one of the questions that I had for you. In the tone of the book, one thing that I really appreciated about it is that I got the sense that you really love family and value family. And as a wife and mama for myself, I would just love to hear your thoughts on how important it's been for you to walk this out in front of your children because as parents, our kids are watching everything that we do. So from the side of like being a mom, like what has it been like for you to walk this out as an example to your children? And then what lessons do you want them to learn from that journey of entrepreneurship?
Well, family's everything to me. Everything I do is for them, and everything I want to do is with them, for as long as they let me. I mean, my kids are teenagers now, so they're busy with their own things. But to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together because I'm home and not at my day job, that's huge. For my teenage son to say, "Hey, are you coming to the homecoming game?" That's huge for us.
Mm,
And a lot of our my husband and my business adventures, I'll call it, is because we incorporate them in the talks. We don't ever think that they're too young to hear something. In fact, we think that we were probably even late in bringing them into the conversations. But when they were in elementary and middle school, we decided that we would have family meetings, and they would start learning about real estate investing, and just responsible spending, and things like that. And it was just important for us to incorporate them as members of the family. And that's really changed how I think they see things. Actually, well, they're both split. So I have two boys, and I think a lot of people say how one child could be the polar opposite of another. One child is very traditional. He's in at USF right now doing pre-med, and he's doing the college route. Like there's no other way around being a doctor.
mhm,
But the other one is, he was going back and forth with, do I need college? Do I want to have the debt of college, when everything I want to learn about investing and entrepreneurship is available for free online? And that's kind of what I talk about in the book, Dawn. Like, even teachers need to realize that the day job might not necessarily be very secure as people make job security sound like it is. And so that's for family time. For me, like, all this goes about family time, whatever we're doing, whether it's kayaking or dirt bike riding or teaching them things. It's to
mhm,
be together. And a lot of people who have a day job, and whether they have a side hustle or not, they don't have enough family time. Like,
mm,
everyone knows how much family time we have, and for us it's not ever enough.
mm,
Then one of the realizations that I had through this process is, even though I was there for all the vacations, for all of the chaperoning of their field trips and all of their games, a lot of times I wasn't presently there,
mm.
like mentally there. I was physically there, but I wasn't mentally there. I was checking my emails, I was returning calls. And so, these are the things where I don't think we need to accept the
Mm.
tradition of day jobs and things like that, and where entrepreneurship really comes in.
Yes, and I can so relate to that. And kids are, they don't always have the filter. So my kids will call me out. At times they're like, "Mom, hey, I want you to watch this," or "I want you to see this." And so I really relate to what you're saying, because there's times where I have to be so intentional that, like, no, put my phone down. I'm not going to be paying attention to that right now, and just be present in the moment, because you don't get those moments back. So I love that you say that, because it's such a good challenge and reminder to ourselves to
Mhm.
pay attention and not let those moments slip past. And so I love that you shared that. But it's to go back to something that you referenced that you talk about in the book, is that I think you said the statistic was like 34% of Americans have a side hustle. And I was really fascinated by that, because you hear about people that have side hustles, but to see the statistic behind it was
Mhm.
interesting to me. So from your perspective and being in this world, do you see that number continuing to grow? And if so, why?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's going to continue to grow. And, that 34%, I think, was a 2021 survey from people in 2020. And, like, the number of people they expected to start a side hustle in 2021 was even more. And so the latest survey that I saw, basically the percentage equaled 70 million Americans having
Mhm,
side hustles.
mhm,
And it's only gonna continue to grow, because everything that, at least that I'm seeing on social media, on podcasts, if you're in a place where you're not feeling like complete, if you're not feeling fulfilled, if you're feeling stuck, I know that's a big part of what you're trying to get out there, Donna, as far as your message goes, you're going to start thinking about entrepreneurship, because all these books and podcasts are teaching you that being an employee is not the way to go. And then this year comes like the highest inflation rate in however many years. And we don't know what's going to happen with the real estate market and all of this. So when it comes to investing and real estate and everything like that, we've been investing in real estate, but we knew that we had to pivot in some way. We're never going to be out of real estate, but investing in businesses was something that my husband and I really knew that we had to really get serious about. We had started our own businesses. Again, I'll call them side hustles, things that we treated more as hobbies than intentional businesses to scale. And that's fine. Like, I think people have side hustles because it just made sense to have a hobby that made money. But then I think they're going to realize, hey, you know what, if I really ask myself the questions of where do I want to be X number of years from now, what's my dream life, it's never going to be working for someone else. Because one of the things I realized is all the creativity that I was putting in my day job, all of the hard work that I was putting in my day job, all the hours that I was basically swapping for money, I can just do for myself. And that's where that's where the fear comes from, as far as giving up that job security, giving up that steady paycheck. And angel employment is our answer to that problem.
One thing that was so interesting as I was reading your book, um, you know, with everything that you've accomplished, you come across as a very ambitious person. In the different jobs that you had in property management, you were signing clients, you were growing, you were moving up in the company, you were adding value. What would you say has been your inspiration for how you've learned to become so driven? Is it more natural for you? Did you learn to become driven over time? I'm just curious from the audience's perspective, some things they can take away from what you've done in your own life to grow as you go and then get to this point where you're actually launching your own business.
For me, it was just always giving my all. And, so when I was in the day job and I thought that that was where I wanted to be and needed to be, then I gave it my all. There was no, um, well, they talk about quiet quitting right now, which is just doing what you need to do to get by, basically, and, just go under the radar.
Mhm.
For me, it was always giving my all and figuring out how I can innovate. How can I, make things easier for people? How can I make someone feel like they're getting the best service from this company that I'm working for, and why they made a good decision choosing us over somebody else. So I think in everything that we do, and of course, this goes back to the kind of example that you want to leave for your kids, is when you go into something, you're going out there to be the best. You're going out there to inspire people. And, when there's a challenge, when you rise to that challenge, when you beat that challenge, it's inspires people. I think, with social media right now, when people are posting like, great things about their family, like, it's so inspiring for me.
Mhm.
And I love watching people succeed, and I just want to be the person that motivates them as well. So I think that, I mean, that I think that comes from my family, being raised in a Filipino American family. My family immigrated to America to take on and take advantage of all the opportunities. I don't think a lot of people realize the amazing opportunities that America has. Like, I'm so grateful for it. My husband is Iranian. His family is persecuted in Iran, and there's crazy the things that are going on right now. They don't have religious freedom. They don't have a lot of any kind of freedom. And the things that we do now to be able to pursue our passions, to be able to choose the kind of work that we want to do, and the kind of people that we want to be, it's a tribute to the people, one, that don't have that freedom, but also to the people that are fighting for our freedom, especially our soldiers here in the US. So
Mhm. Mm. When you speak of patriotism, it lights me up because I completely agree. I think it's so valuable. To look at what you have and be thankful and be grateful and put things in perspective. There's so many stories I hear on the news now about people being triggered and all of these things, and I'm like, perspective, perspective. We've got to
Yeah.
keep perspective. If we did that, I feel like the world as a whole, people as a whole would just have a completely different life if they could really keep perspective and know, what some people in other sides of the world are facing compared to what we're facing. So, patriotism is something that I would love to see grow in America more and more, to really realize, like you said, the value of what they get to do every day and the freedoms that they have. It's just something that I'm hoping that we do a turnaround in America as far as understanding patriotism. Um, so one of the other questions I have for you today is what has and you've spoken on it, I think, a little bit, but I want to to lean into this question a little bit more. What role has faith played in your decision to move forward into something brand new? Because a lot of times people hold on to ideas and they don't always walk them out fully because they're afraid, like, what if it doesn't work out? What if I'm choosing the wrong thing to lean into? And they get held back by limiting beliefs and fear. And so for the our called forth audience, faith is a big part of why we do what we do. So I'd be curious to know what role faith has had in your life as far as your willingness to step forward into what was stirring on your heart.
In addition to family and fun and finances and fitness, faith is one of my favorite F words, I call it. And my husband and I have been known to make bold moves ever since actually dating each other, because he's much older than me. And I got married young. And after I got married and finished college, I we had our first son, and then we moved across the country, and after establishing really good and lucrative jobs in Maryland, from moving from California, we left that because we wanted to live in Florida. And so we've been known to make bold moves, and it's really because we've had faith in God and in our relationship and our support system and in ourselves. Like having faith, just knowing that things will work out
Mm.
and knowing that there is a God, and a God that's, has a good future and plan for us, then that's really helped me. And one of the things that I've always seen is I haven't really been the kind of person that thinks of what if. Like my husband's more realistic and, okay, if this happens, let's have a plan for it, right? I'm more of the optimistic, like, let's just do it. And it's good, right, to have that balance.
Yeah.
But one of the things that really hit home for me is that if you knew what God had in store for you, you'd have more faith in the plan than in
Mm.
him.
I love that. Wow.
And that really has always been important for me. And I'm not, everything that we've succeeded in, it's never been without challenge. And having someone to turn to and to pray to and to just believe in and have faith in has really really kept us going, to be honest. So
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that side of it. That's absolutely true. I love your that quote that you just mentioned. I'm definitely going to have to highlight that when we share the description of that because that is so good. So one of the things I kind of want to dive into and give you the opportunity to speak into more is who is an angel employment for, and what benefits is there to angel employment?
yeah, sure. So angel employment is giving you the day job benefits that you're afraid of losing if you want to transition to being a business owner. If you're at that point where you know that you want to be your own boss, you want to be able to do what you're passionate about on your own time, on your own terms, then we have the vehicle for you basically to not worry about how you're going to put food on the table, how are you going to have health insurance for your family. That's what angel employment is. If you've heard of angel investors who gives businesses lump sum, large sums of money to help with business expenses, angel employment is to help you with your personal expenses. And that was, as a mom, as a wife, that was so important for me to not be afraid of losing that when transitioning to pursuing my own passion. Because then, you question yourself, are you being selfish? Are you going to put your family in a bad position? And that's where angel employment is. And so we're not only looking for people that can take advantage of this, but the more sales we have on the book, the more money we have to fund what we're calling day hustlers. Mm-hmm. So investors that invest in real estate, that invest in, venture capitalists, angel investors right now, they can also invest as angel employers. We are looking to partner with people so that you can invest in people pursuing their passion is what it is. And it's very fulfilling. And your risk is also limited. So as I mentioned, angel investors stand to lose a lot of money in these large lump sums, but here your investment is limited to those biweekly paychecks. Mm-hmm. So 2 weeks in, 1 week in, 3 months in, you're having conversations with this business that you're looking to accelerate. And if their business plan needs to be molded or tweaked because that 40 plus hours that they now have to focus on their business isn't growing the business, then you have a chance to work together to really get that business to succeed. And it's so exciting.
Yeah, it was one of my questions for you is there any sort of mentorship that's a part of a piece of this? Like if somebody comes and they have questions and they're in the process of growing, do they have that mentorship side with you?
Yeah. So Jim Rohn said, your network is your net worth. All of the day hustlers and all of the angel employers, our goal is to create a network and a community. So somebody that applies to be a day hustler, for example, they are now transitioning, right? That's a big mindset to transition from an employee mindset to a business owner mindset. So we're working with life coaches, with business coaches, and then these day hustlers are service providers. So if somebody's trying to grow their marketing business or social media management business or podcast business, everyone can help everybody. Just like I'm, marketing a book and you have a podcast on, and this is mutually beneficial for both of us. Mm-hmm. And that's how I see angel employment is a very mutually beneficial for the whole community.
Mm. So to kind of piggyback off of something you mentioned that's sparking my interest to want to ask you is, what is that shift that you have to make going from 9 to 5 to your side hustle? And you referenced it just a moment ago. What is that shift you feel like you have to make in order to be successful in pursuing your own business versus the 9 to 5?
Well, one of the things is, whether right or wrong, I talk about this in my book, is I've always been deadline based. And as far as, like procrastinators, for example, like they needed that pressure to get something done. And I've always been good under pressure. Mm. And if you don't have a boss, then who's pressuring you? Where's that accountability coming from? Well, angel employment is the perfect transition for that, because you don't lose the things that would really stress you out, that's causing entrepreneurs mental breakdowns by not, by having to worry about how to put food on the table. But it has that pressure because, when we meet bi-weekly, when we do a salary review or a business review, then you still have somebody looking at your business and saying, okay, are you doing what you put in your business plan? Because we're literally giving you back 40 hours a week of your life, right? Mm. And it's an amazing, I call it dream life hack instead of just a life hack, to be able to do what you want, but you have to be responsible with that time, because not only are we trying to accelerate your business, but we're trying to get everybody to, like I said, benefit from it and to really succeed. So that mindset of having people depend on you and taking the initiative to get things done. The mindset also, when you're an employee, obviously, if you make mistakes, someone else is really paying for it. Mm. As far monetarily, right? As an employee, you have to deal with fixing your problems. At least I think, I would hope you took on that responsibility. Mm-hmm. But as an employer, as a business owner, if things happen, it's on your shoes, it's on your table to fix. So learning that grit, and despite this challenges, how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to make this business succeed? That's a huge mindset.
Mm-hmm. I love that. One of the things that I have come to realize that when we are pursuing something, you can't always control the end outcome, but you control the decision to actually step forward and do it. And so one of my life messages is let go of the outcome, because sometimes there's things that are outside of our control. And so I'd be curious your perspective on how you've been able to let go of the outcome in your life and move forward into the things that, that God has stirred on your heart to pursue and do.
I love that. I love that. I think that goes back to faith. You know, what do they say? You make plans and God laughs, right?
Yeah.
I think whatever outcome it is, that's where your faith comes in. That's where the gratefulness comes in, that's what meant to be. That's what the outcome was meant to be, whether you thought that it was supposed to be that or not. And then you have to really have that faith to know that this is better than what you even imagined. And whether that's the end result or where that's going to lead you to something even greater, absolutely. You need to have a vision, you need to have a dream, but there's a balance in everything.
Mm. What would you say has been the highlight for you in launching a book and stepping forward into this business? Is there anything that's so far been a highlight for you that you've just loved that's a part of the process of what you do?
So much, so much has come from not being an employee anymore. I was thankful, right? I'm sorry, I was grateful and I was blessed because my golden handcuffs were truly golden.
Mm,
And I think in that sense, it even took more for me to really appreciate any challenge that I go through right now. There's people that are in handcuffs that are rusty and they hate
mm,
their job and they hate their situation. Like I said, I enjoyed my job. I worked from home even before COVID. So again, physically, I was here for my family and all of that. But once I really let go of that and I became, we're full-time business owners, full-time investors, I truly have control over my schedule and where I want to focus my time. And, that's just huge. And I've also been able to talk to people, to be able to offer something that could make a difference in someone's life has really just given me such a great sense of fulfillment.
mm,
Um, I was in property management, and it's important to find purpose in everything you do, no matter what it is. But I feel like I wasn't genuine to myself as to, yeah, I found fulfillment by helping somebody in their life's biggest investment, their home, right? But we were dealing with people, board of directors of HOAs and condos that were fighting about, little petty things. And again, there's purpose and fulfillment in little things, but overall I wasn't.
mm,
Now when I talk to somebody about, giving them a vehicle to really pursue their passion, or giving them a vehicle to really be able to be home for their kid and not miss a baseball game or not miss a dance recital,
mhm,
that's what God's called forth for me.
mm,
And that's what the biggest benefit of this is.
mm. So on the flip side of that question, what would you say, now that we've covered what the highlights have been, what would you say has been the biggest lessons that you've learned from walking this out?
Biggest lessons is definitely you're not in this alone, and you don't have to be. There's a lot of times when you feel alone because you're doing something new, right? You don't have all those colleagues or all those people that know what you're talking about, because I'm writing a book about something completely new, and it's exciting, but there's not a lot of people that uh, you know understand it at that level.
Mhm,
So I think it's just remembering that I'm not alone, that even though, people didn't create it, people understand it and they understand the
mhm,
value of it. And then it's just figuring out how to work together to really bring it forward to the masses.
mm.
And, that's why I'm so grateful for you and, the other podcasts that I've been on, because that's what we're doing. We're spreading the message of something that could really help people pursue their passion. And I'm just so excited about that.
I love that you bring that up because I so relate to that feeling of being lonely because you're right. Whether you're I feel like whether you're in a big city or a small community, in my case, I'm in a small community, it is hard to find other people that understand and relate on that level, especially when you're looking at specific industries. And you're in obviously a financial and entrepreneurial industry. It can feel very lonely. So I love your advice of remember that you're not alone because I feel like that's so relatable, especially the solopreneur journey. It is hard to deal with the fact that sometimes you don't relate or not there's not a lot of voices in the conversation, but to surround yourself, I feel like whether you're online or like we've connected through BBG, and which is a community of online entrepreneurs and marketers, but to do things to seek out that connection with other people. So I appreciate that you share that because I do feel like it's really relatable. And so one of the last questions I want to have for you here is if you could go back and give yourself any advice before you started your entrepreneur journey, what would it be?
Oh, before I started it. I think it takes more than a vision and a goal,
Mm,
and even more than just writing that vision and goal down. You really have to have a plan. That going back to that clarity, like I say, F words are my favorite, but clarity has really become one of my favorite words. And when I don't know what I'm doing for the day, like that even boils down to the nitty gritty of being organized in the day. When
mm,
you don't know that, like you just have this anxiousness. And so clarity is really important. So if you don't know what your purpose is in life and you need to pray or you need to meditate or you need to just sit down and, mind map, all the things that are running through your head, just get to that point where at least you have a plan,
mm,
and then have faith in that plan. Just stick it through. And, whatever comes your way, if that's what you want, find a way to make it happen. And that's what I would tell myself, because it's a constant reminder, even though, we've lived it, it's something that we have to remind ourselves every day.
mhm. Yes. Well, I just want to thank you so much for being on this episode today and sharing with the audience your journey and your pearls of wisdom. I know that they are going to gain so much from hearing your story, and it is so beneficial to see somebody who has walked something out and is seeing the fruits of their labor and and seeing their success. So I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your journey. And I want to leave the audience. Can you tell me where other people can follow you, where they can find you to learn more about angel investing or working with you, and just maybe they want to also just follow your journey? Where can they find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me, well, first, the book, you can go to dayhustlebook.com. That talks about the book and it talks about myself. But there's links to our company, Day Hustle's website. So it's dayhustle.com, pretty simple. But you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. And all the links are there.
Okay, great. Yes, we will also leave links as well in our description so we can point you in the right direction. So thank you, Gianna. It was so awesome to speak with you today. Appreciate your time.